I used to take it all the time, and I'm not sure if it was helping me, but it wasn't, but.
Hello, everyone.
So I just thought I should not
Welcome.
take
Thank you
it.
so much for being here. My name is Zoie Phillips. I'm a functional medicine physician assistant, and I'm the owner of my practice called UpCurrent Functional Medicine. It's a telemedicine functional medicine practice. Now I live in Wilmington, so just over the bridge, but I see people through telemedicine visits, and I can see people all in the state of North Carolina. I know most of you live around here in Brunswick Forest, and so it's lovely to meet you. I'm really excited to dive in tonight. The title of our talk tonight is How to Improve Your Sleep. So perhaps some of you struggle with your sleep. Do know you are in for a treat tonight. We are going to dive deep into sleep, different root causes, and most importantly, what you can do about it, right? Because it's one thing to learn, but it's another thing to put into action. And so my goal for you tonight is that you will walk away with things that you can tangibly do to sleep better tonight. So let's get started. A little bit about myself. There's some alphabet soup behind my name. It does have a meaning. I'm a physician assistant, so that explains the MSPA and PAC. But I also have 2 functional medicine certifications. So I call myself a functional medicine physician assistant because I have training in functional medicine through the School of Applied Functional Medicine, but also the Institute for Functional Medicine. I did my Master of Science in Physician Assistant at Murphy-Deming College of Health Science in Virginia, and I did my Bachelor of Science in Health Promotion Clinical at Liberty University. I do have several years of experience working for some awesome integrative medicine practices. I've been mentored by 2 fantastic providers, well known for integrative medicine, and I do work part-time for the School of Applied Functional Medicine. So if you're ever watching their webinars, then you may see me. It's really fun. All right, so what are we gonna get into tonight? Let's see. Number 1, we're gonna learn about sleep facts and importance. We're going to, of course, dive into root causes of poor sleep. We're gonna talk about sleep solutions, things that you can do tonight to start sleeping better. And we can end with a question and answer time, which is really an anything goes period, where you can ask me any questions. It doesn't have to necessarily be related to sleep, and I will do my very best to answer them with a functional perspective. Maybe you're scratching your head, what is functional medicine? Don't worry, I will cover that. Okay, what are our goals? By the end of this presentation, I would love for you to be able to share with someone why sleep matters, why do we even care about sleep, what are some root causes of sleep, hopefully you can identify at least 3, and what are some easy interventions that you can do to start sleeping better now. Just a little disclaimer, the information that I share tonight, it is not intended as medical advice, just some really helpful information. Okay, is this you? Do you feel like this? I already want to take a nap tomorrow. And along those lines, do you go to bed dreading sleep, afraid that you're gonna lie awake for hours? Do you get frustrated when you keep waking up? Maybe you can fall asleep, but you have trouble staying asleep. Or maybe you wake up in the morning and you just feel exhausted. Did I even go to sleep at all? Or maybe you're just tired of being sick and tired. I get it, and I'm really glad you're here. This is definitely the talk for you. All right, pop quiz. Anybody who goes to my talks knows that I love to give pop quizzes, so I love your participation. Okay, how many Americans don't get enough sleep according to the CDC? Is it A, 1 in 12, B, 1 in 9, C, 1 in 6, or D, 1 in 3? What do we think? What are we thinking? A? What do you think? A. D. I like it. The variety. D. Okay. All right. We've got the gamut here. Go ahead, Drew. The answer is D. 1 in 3.
We're smart.
33% of people don't get enough sleep. That's a lot. That's a lot. Let's move on. All right, here's some additional sleep statistics for you. 40% of people with insomnia, people who have trouble falling asleep, are believed to be affected by mental health disorders such as anxiety, depression, or other mood imbalances. 80% of people who take prescription sleep medications have side effects, right? Like oversleeping, feeling groggy, or having a hard time concentrating the next day. And 40% of people have a higher risk for insomnia in women as opposed to men. So not looking good for us ladies in terms of insomnia. So this is normal, right? Because so many of us are impacted by sleep issues. This has to be totally normal, right? Definitely not. I do not agree with this at all. Just because things are common doesn't mean that they're normal. And what functional medicine does is it helps to uncover the why behind your symptoms, taking into account the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. And I believe and see in my practice that when root causes are addressed, the body can thrive, it can do its thing, it can heal, and symptoms can be reversed. I don't believe that any symptom is normal. Okay, so maybe you're wondering, Zoe, this is great, but exactly what is functional medicine? So this is Dr. Mark Hyman. He's one of the pioneers of functional medicine. Maybe you've recognized him. Has some great books, some great podcasts. He says functional medicine is the future of conventional medicine, and it's available now. It seeks to identify and address the root causes of disease and views the body as one integrated system, not a collection of independent organs divided up by medical specialties. It treats the whole symptom, not just the symptoms. I think this is a fantastic definition for functional medicine. Okay, functional medicine is also known as root cause medicine because it gets to the root of symptoms by assessing one's sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress, relationships, trauma, microorganisms, and also environmental exposures. All of these pieces make up your current state of health. They matter. It also takes into account the mental, emotional, and spiritual factors. You are more than a set of labs. You are more than a group of symptoms. You're unique, you're dynamic, you have your own unique biochemistry. It also takes into account genetic predispositions. A lot of us are walking around with different genetic mutations that may require us to need more things as compared to other people. For example, more B vitamins or more magnesium or more vitamin B6. It also takes into account the experiences, attitudes, and beliefs that we hold. Okay, so what about UpCurrent, my telemedicine functional medicine practice? What do we believe? We believe the body works together in symphony, that symptoms are the body's way of communicating with us that something is off balance. It doesn't mean that our body is broken. It just means some things are off balance, and that's okay. Symptoms can manifest from an imbalance in mind, body, or spirit. There is at least one root cause for every symptom, and individuals who are willing to address the root causes of their imbalances can heal. And that's a really important discerning factor when working with someone who's a functional medicine provider, is that willingness to address some of these lifestyle factors, which are really tough. Let's not forget that. But because we know that lifestyle factors are so important for our overall health, making certain changes are often necessary. Okay, so let's dive in about our topic tonight, which is sleep. Let's learn about facts and the importance of it. So what happens during sleep? Why do we care about sleep? Well, energy conservation takes place. Our metabolism is lowered. We can reduce our caloric needs. It also helps with immune support because our body makes cytokines, which are these proteins that fight infection and inflammation and produces certain antibodies and also immune cells. It also supports our emotional well-being. How many people wake up after a terrible night's sleep and feel terrible and irritable and annoyed and everything is making you mad and upset? Why? Because during REM sleep, and we'll dive into this, brain activity increases in areas that regulate emotions, such as the amygdala, and that helps to support emotional stability. It also helps with weight maintenance. This is always a fan favorite. Sleep regulates hunger hormones. Maybe you've heard of ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin increases appetite, makes us hungry, and leptin increases satiety, helps us to feel full after we've eaten. And ghrelin decreases during sleep. But when we don't get enough sleep, ghrelin increases and leptin decreases, which is no bueno. What about insulin? Sleep can protect against insulin resistance. When insulin and glucose struggle to get inside of the cell, to get out of the bloodstream, because it promotes cellular health and it allows for that glucose to go inside of the cell. What about heart health? There's a strong link between heart disease and poor sleep. Cellular restoration. How many of you heard that when you sleep, you heal? Yeah, because it's true. The body needs sleep to restore itself. Sleep allows cells to repair and grow, and also helps with brain function. Sleep allows your neurons or your nerve cells to reorganize. And this is really cool. During sleep, the brain's waste clearance system, did you know that you even had that? A waste clearance system in your brain called the lymphatic system removes toxins, toxic byproducts from your brain that do build up during the day. And also sleep helps to convert short-term memories into long-term memories. So maybe if your memory isn't the greatest, maybe we can chalk that up to some terrible sleep. Okay, so how much sleep do we need, right? We constantly hear the 8 hours, but what is the actual amount? Well, if you are parents, then you probably can attest to some of these statistics. In the earlier years, we need a lot of sleep. Babies sleep a lot, right? At birth, 14 to 17 hours. But maybe as we go down, we're maybe around the 18 to 60-year-old section, or the 61 to 64-year-old section, or maybe even 65 and above. It tends to be around 7 to 9-ish hours. So, the saying, get your 8 hours, it's pretty spot on. I think that's pretty great. 8 hours is a great goal. All right, another pop quiz. Let's get ready. How many stages of sleep exist? 3, is it A, 3 stages, B, 4 stages, C, 5 stages, or D, 6 stages? What do we think? A, B, B. Okay, we got A, 3 or 4. Not too shabby. Let's get the answer. It's B, 4 stages. Good job, guys. All right, so let's dive into the stages of sleep. So yes, there are 4 stages, starting with stage 1, which is N1. N stands for non-REM sleep. And 1, 2, and 3 stand for non-REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement. So in stage 1, it's light sleep. It's that transition between wake and sleep. When things, you close your eyes and you're laying your head on your pillow and you think some weird thoughts. And maybe you come out of that and you wonder, what just happened? That's that transition period. That's the stage 1. Muscle tone is still present, breathing is regular, and that lasts about 1 to 5 minutes. Then we have N2, deeper sleep, and that's about 45% of total sleep time. And your heart rate at this point starts to drop, and your body temperature starts to drop as well. This lasts about 25 minutes, but it does lengthen with each cycle. Bruxism. How many of you know what that is or have heard of that term, bruxism? Tell us, what does it mean?
Grinding your teeth.
Yes, you are on it. Clenching and grinding your teeth. Who here thinks that they might do that? Anybody? Yes? Yep. Okay. Me too. In PA school, I was a clencher and a grinder. Not fun, but that would happen here in stage 2. N3, stage 3 is the deepest non-REM sleep. That's all about 25% of total sleep time. That's when your blood pressure and your breathing rate really drop. And your body is then able to repair and regrow tissues, build bone and muscle, and also strengthens the immune system. Now, sleepwalking, night terrors, and bedwetting occur in this stage. And then we finally have our REM sleep. REM again stands for rapid eye movement. That's about 25% of total sleep time. This is where dreaming takes place. The brain becomes more active, but the body becomes immobilized. So your body doesn't want you to act out on some of those dreams. Eyes do move rapidly, and this is really important for learning and memory. we're still awake, but our eyes are open, our head's on the pillow, we're awake. What's happening? We typically have these beta waves, busy active mind. That typically is what's the brain waves that we have during the day when we're functioning. But then we follow that up with alpha waves that are occur when we are restful and we're again getting ready to go to bed. Maybe when we close our eyes, those beta waves shift to alpha waves. Then in that N1 stage, we have theta waves. And we can see they're longer and more spread out. Then we have in N2, there are sleep spindles and K complexes that we can't see here on the graph. In N3, we have delta waves down there at the bottom. And then in REM sleep, this is what's interesting, we go back to the beta waves that we had during the day because our brain is active, but our body is immobilized. So these are the brain waves, and maybe you're wondering, why are we learning about all of this? Let's keep these waves in mind, specifically the alpha waves, when we talk about some supplements. And just a spoiler alert, these are the three I'm going to talk about tonight. So in particular, the L-theanine, we will come back and revisit the alpha waves. So tuck that in your brain and we'll come back to it. Okay, so what else about stages of sleep? 75% of sleep is spent in the non-REM stages 1, 2, and 3. The first REM period is actually short, but as the night progresses, the REM, rapid eye movement, sleep increases and deep sleep decreases. So a complete cycle takes about an hour and a half, and a typical night's sleep consists of 4 to 5 sleep cycles. Okay, fantastic. We have a good idea about sleep, but why is it so important? Well, sleep is basically guaranteed healing time. During non-REM sleep, our autonomic nervous system, we will visit this, don't worry, is in a parasympathetic state, also known as rest and digest. But unfortunately, most Americans live in a constant sympathetic state, which is that fight or flight or freeze state. Now, our body can only heal in a parasympathetic state, so it makes sense why sleep is important. We want to achieve that parasympathetic state as often as we can. Okay, so a little bit about the autonomic nervous system. What is it? It's the part of our nervous system that connects the brain to most of the internal organs. And it's broken up into 3 subdivisions: the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, and the enteric nervous system. Here's what's interesting. We're going to be talking about parasympathetic and sympathetic tonight. We cannot be in both a parasympathetic and a sympathetic state at the same time. It's only one or the other. It's like a light switch, one or the other, off or on. So what about this parasympathetic state? Again, it's the rest and digest state. This is the goal. This is our goal, is to reach a parasympathetic state. This is predominant when our body believes we are safe, everything is okay. In non-REM sleep, the parasympathetic state is dominant. But what about that sympathetic nervous system? This is the fight or flight or freeze. This is predominant when our body believes we are stressed. So any kind of stress, our body perceives that we are literally running from a bear. So this is not optimal for a number of reasons, but mainly our body cannot heal in that state. It's a beautiful thing that we have the sympathetic state, so that way if we're out and about, let's say we're crossing a street and a car comes zooming by, we can quickly step back and avoid an injury, right? Amazing things can happen in this state. Have you heard of mothers who are able to lift up cars to help their child underneath? Yes, this actually exists. The body is amazing, and we get flood of epinephrine, norepinephrine, and cortisol that give us the strength and the power, and that's really, really cool. But we don't want to live in that state, and unfortunately for a lot of us, we're living in that state all day long. REM sleep is actually, during that state, we are in the sympathetic state. Okay, so finally, the pièce de résistance. What are the explanations for poor sleep, right? This is why you're here. Give me answers. Okay, here we go. Pop quiz. How many potential root causes of poor sleep exist? 3, 6, 9, or 12? What do we think? A, B, C, or D? How many root causes of poor sleep do you think exist?
D.
I think at least 6.
Okay, I like it. So B, D, what do we think? C. Okay, all right, fantastic. Let's see what the answer is. It's D. You guys are smart cookies. All right, here we go. Root causes of poor sleep. So we'll dive deeper into each section, starting with high cortisol, hypoglycemia, which means low blood sugar, low progesterone, which is a hormone, caffeine and alcohol, nutrient deficiencies, stress. Everybody loves to talk about stress, right? Parasites. Ooh, parasites. What? Yeah, parasites. Poor methylation, a GABA glutamate imbalance, low melatonin, sleep apnea, and poor sleep hygiene. Okay, let's dive in. So, cortisol. What is cortisol? How many of you have heard of cortisol? It's kind of hot these days. Yes, yes, okay. All right, I like it. Cortisol is a short-term hormone. It's made in the adrenals. So these are the adrenals. Here are your kidneys. The adrenals sit on top of the kidneys, and they look like little party hats. But they're not entirely fun. We don't want to abuse our adrenals. So these adrenals release cortisol, which is a short-term hormone that's released in times of stress. And it serves a purpose. Stress can be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. Now we're gonna dive deeper into stress, but I want us to really pause when we think about stress. It comes up a lot. Maybe your own provider has shared with you, oh, it's just stress, right? You don't sleep well and someone says, oh, it's just stress. There's a lot of, we make a lot of excuses for stress, but really, what is it? So I'm excited to break it down a little bit further. Other causes of high cortisol: exercise. When you're moving your body, cortisol goes up. Cortisol makes blood vessels smaller. It's a vasoconstrictor, and that helps to increase blood pressure, helps to get more blood to the muscles, and so it's beneficial during exercise. It also goes up when we're in pain, and it also goes up if we drink coffee. How many of us drink coffee? Yeah, okay, me too. All right, so what about melatonin? What is melatonin? Melatonin is a hormone that is released by our pineal gland in our brain in response to darkness. We'll dive deeper into melatonin, but we know it's made in our own body endogenously, and it's important for falling asleep. It's a part of that sleep-wake natural circadian rhythm. So when cortisol goes up, now think about this. We're in a sympathetic state of fight, or freeze for the majority of the day. For a lot of us, unfortunately, cortisol is often high during the day. But in particular at night, different things can make cortisol go up. When it does go up, melatonin goes down. Now, why would that happen? Well, because your body's pretty daggone amazing, that's why. So remember, your body perceives all stress as you being chased by a bear. Now, your body's main job is to keep you alive. And if your body thinks that a bear is chasing you, is that a good time to fall asleep? No! Wow, thank you, body. You help me, you support me. Yes, we can trust our body. Your body is working for you. Your body is amazing. It's supporting you constantly. And so I just love how this is a perfect example of how our body is for us, not against us. So your body's loving and intelligent and natural response is to suppress melatonin, because if you're running from a bear, it's not a good time to take a nap. It's a good time to run for your life. So you need all the energy that you can get, and cortisol can help with that. So cortisol in a nutshell. What else can cause poor sleep? Low blood sugar. Low blood sugar. Now, this isn't talked about enough, in my opinion. I think that a lot of us hear about too high of blood glucose, right? We think about insulin resistance, which is also known as pre-diabetes, or diabetes. They get a lot of press, right? But what about low blood sugar? This is actually quite common, even in individuals who do have blood sugar regulation. Why? Because these people are probably experiencing a lot of spikes and a lot of dips in their blood glucose during the day. So what is the problem with low blood sugar? Isn't that the goal? Isn't that what my provider is always telling me to do, is get it lower, get it lower? Well, when blood sugar is too low, it can lead to confusion and syncope. You can pass out, you can have a seizure, it could even lead to coma or even death. So when blood glucose levels drop during sleep, your body, again, your awesome, amazing, incredible, loving body is helping you. It's waking you up so you can go get food and restore your blood glucose to healthier, safer levels. So what could cause this? Alcohol. Alcohol can cause this. We'll talk more about that, but alcohol can, depending on what you're drinking, can definitely cause a spike in blood glucose followed by a pretty gnarly dip. And then also insufficient calories during the day. Now, I have a lot of different patients, and I think the majority of them struggle not with eating too much during the day, but actually too little during the day. We know the pressures that society puts on us, especially women, to look a certain way. And by default, we might go too far in terms of cutting calories. And we may eat too little calories during the day, which would cause our blood glucose to be insufficient during the day and even at night. We talked about dysregulated blood glucose, so spikes and dips. If you are diagnosed with insulin resistance or pre-diabetes or diabetes, it's likely that you're experiencing spikes and dips in your blood glucose. If your provider checks your A1C, that's your average blood glucose in a span of 3 months. But that doesn't mean that's what your blood glucose is all the time. It's an average. You could be dealing with spikes and dips. And that's a talk for another day. We will definitely do that. Okay, what else? Progesterone. Progesterone, what is it? It's a sex hormone. And it's broken down into 2 different metabolites. It's broken down into beta-pregnenolol and alpha-pregnenolol. So, pregnanediol, excuse me. So, beta-pregnenolol acts on the GABA receptor. Now, what is GABA? Well, if you've ever had alcohol in your life, what you've probably noticed is that you feel good and relaxed and everything is awesome. That's GABA for you. GABA is going up. It's the feel-good neurotransmitter, and it acts like a brake pedal on your brain, and it helps to quiet all those, annoying thoughts, right? You ever notice this when you're having a drink or two with your buddies and, life is hard, but it's okay. Everything is okay, right? Yeah, that's GABA. GABA's pretty great. And so it's really helpful if we struggle with rumination before sleep. So maybe you, prior to bed, are struck with all of these worries and concerns, and now as soon as your head hits the pillow, it's like your brain starts running, and you start thinking about your day, the conversations you had, the things you wish you wouldn't have said, things that happened 5 years ago, that distant relative who lives in Alaska. I mean, all the random stuff, right? It comes up at night. GABA can help with that. It can ease those rumination type thoughts. So if progesterone is low, then we don't have enough upstream substrate to break down into that beta-pregnenolol, which can increase GABA. So this is particularly common if you are perimenopausal, around the time of menopause, if you're postmenopausal, or if you have estrogen dominance, which is a really another hot topic, where there's too much estrogen in relationship to progesterone. And spoiler alert, even if you're a man, you've got estrogen, and you can absolutely have estrogen dominance or too much estrogen in relationship to progesterone. Estrogen is it inhibits progesterone, and so that's the relationship there. Too much estrogen not only throws off the relationship between estrogen and progesterone, but it also decreases progesterone. Okay, what else? Caffeine and alcohol, right? These are some pretty no-brainers. What about caffeine? This stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, right? Fight or flight or freeze. And what does it do? It increases cortisol. And we learned cortisol, that short-acting adrenal hormone, suppresses melatonin. So in addition to feeling wired, your body's gonna have a hard time making its own melatonin. So caffeine, especially later in the day, after 2 p.m., is not the best idea. What about alcohol? How many people have ever grabbed alcohol to help them fall asleep? Anyone? Wow, gold stars for you all. Fantastic people. Well, some
You didn't
people
ask if we're having it at dinner, though.
Oh, very true. Okay. So it can make you a little bit sleepy, right? Why? Because it depresses the central nervous system. Makes us feel tired. So this is a great tool, right? We could, have a glass of wine before bed and everything's A-okay. I don't recommend that. Why? It's a toxin, and the body has to metabolize it right away. It also decreases REM sleep, that rapid eye movement sleep. And that sleep really helps us to feel refreshed when we wake up in the morning. It can also cause blood sugar to spike, followed by a blood sugar crash, hypoglycemia, and that can cause the body to wake up in the middle of the night. But it can also cause the throat muscles to relax, and that can cause more resistance during breathing, which is also known as obstructive sleep apnea. So alcohol, no go. All right, what about nutrients? Nutrient deficiencies. Magnesium, vitamin D, and vitamin B6. Who here takes magnesium? Okay, a good bit of you take magnesium. Great. So what is magnesium good for? Everything, literally everything. It's my favorite mineral of all time. It's my favorite supplement. If I were stranded on an island and can only have one supplement, it would definitely be magnesium. Magnesium is awesome. It's a VIP. Why? It's a natural calcium channel blocker, and it relaxes all the muscles in your body, including your GI tract. So if you're struggling with constipation, magnesium deficiency could be a root cause. But if you struggle with restless leg syndrome, RLS, magnesium could be your best friend. Because again, it relaxes all the muscles in your body, all over, including your legs. What else is it? It's a vasodilator, which means it makes your blood vessel diameter larger. And that can help to lower blood pressure, which can help us to feel more calm. One root cause of anxiousness is actually high blood pressure. High blood pressure can make us feel anxious and on edge. Magnesium also helps to maintain healthy levels of GABA. Well, we just talked about that. That's that feel-good hormone. We want all the GABA we can get. So that magnesium helps with it. And the truth is, most people are deficient in magnesium. Why can I say this with confidence? Because I look at labs, tons of labs. I love it. It's my favorite thing in the whole wide world is going through labs. It's awesome, but when we check magnesium, 9 times out of 10, it is low. Now, what do I mean when I say low? I should say suboptimal. In functional medicine, we do not use the same reference range when it comes to labs. So, have you ever gone to your provider and they say, your labs are normal, you're great, you're good to go, see you in a year? Has that ever happened to anyone here? Yeah, it happens a lot, right? But maybe you're still struggling with the symptom. And you're like, but what about this? And your provider says, no, your labs are normal, you're fine, you're fine. I believe you. Things are not fine. That reference range is referencing 95% of Americans. And 95% of Americans are overweight and chronically ill and not the ideal picture of health, right? And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be like the majority, 95% of Americans. And I don't want my patients to be like the 95% of Americans. I want us to be amazing, awesome, superior health. So in functional medicine, we have a different reference range, which is smaller. So your provider may look at your labs and say, oh, your magnesium is normal. I will look at your labs and I might say, no way, this is out of range. I may also check different labs than your conventional provider. Perhaps if they check a magnesium, it would be serum. I'm checking, for example, a red blood cell, which looks at how your body uses magnesium, not just what's floating around in your body. So those are the differences when it comes to conventional versus functional medicine, and how we define a magnesium deficiency, because their perspective and my perspective is going to be completely different. But in reviewing labs, most people are definitely not in that ideal reference range when it comes to magnesium. And there's so many more benefits I haven't even gone over. It converts vitamin D into its final form. It's really important for detoxification. So what about vitamin D? Vitamin D, everybody loves vitamin D, right? Even your primary care provider loves vitamin D. Why is it that your primary care provider will be okay with you taking vitamin D, but maybe not other supplements? It's a little bit interesting, isn't it? It's the only favorite. It's the only okay supplement. Vitamin D deficiency is associated with a variety of sleep-related disorders, and most Americans are deficient in vitamin D. Why? Where do we spend the majority of our day? Inside. Maybe we're at work, working under fluorescent light bulbs. Maybe we're in our home. I'm guilty of this. I work in my apartment through, when I see patients through telemedicine. I'm also indoors, and so we are not very intentional about getting outside. Also, our bodies are not as equipped to metabolize our vitamin D in the same way. That could be due to a number of factors, such as seed oils. Okay, what about vitamin B6? Ooh, vitamin B6. We don't hear a lot about this one in the press, right? Maybe B12, right? B12, it's awesome brother, who everybody knows helps with energy and etc. Vitamin B6 is needed to make the neurotransmitter serotonin, the happy hormone, which is needed to make melatonin. So we need vitamin B6, which is needed to make serotonin, which is used to make melatonin. And that's the goal. Let your body do its thing. Let your body make its own melatonin. It can do it. It's capable. Okay, what else? Stress. Here we go. Oh, it's just stress. All right, well, what is stress, right? Let's actually break it down. Stress can be physical. So this means chronic pain. If any of you are living with chronic pain, this is serious physical stress on your body. Over-exercise. I have a lot of patients who, instead of under-exercise, they over-exercise. And that is still stress on the body. There is a thing as too much exercise. Gut imbalances. Oh, interesting. Candida overgrowth, gram-negative bacteria, leaky gut. Has anybody heard that phrase, leaky gut? Inflammation in the gut, H. pylori overgrowth. These are all things that we can assess in functional medicine, and it's super cool to see the data and to really connect the dots, your symptoms and the data, seeing those two worlds kind of connect. What about mold? Mold? What do you mean mold? I don't live in mold, Zoe. That's weird. Well, you might because we live in a coastal area, and mold is prevalent, and it doesn't have to be obvious. There could be signs of little tiny signs of water damage in your home. It's bubbling or cracking of paint or warping of wood or the wall, or maybe even a water spot, a tiny one. These are all signs of a bigger problem, and it's humid down here, right? So mold is actually very common in this area, and some people can harbor mycotoxins in their body. and that can make them very ill. So that's actually something I help people with. Mold, Lyme and co-infections. Lyme disease and co-infections. Co-infections are other tick-borne illnesses that are similar to Lyme, such as Babesia, Bartonella, and unfortunately this goes undiagnosed. A lot of people, if they suspect Lyme, they'll have their labs assessed. Unfortunately, those labs have up to a 60% false negative rate. That's not good. That means that we're not getting accurate diagnoses. These can cause all sorts of neurological problems, joint problems. So that could be stress in the body. And it's also something that I help with. That conventional medicine is that is different than conventional medicine. Heavy metals. Heavy metals. Yeah, I check those in labs. And you would be surprised at how often I will see elevated heavy metals in labs and blood work, which only assesses for acute exposure, about a day. This is something that unfortunately has a lot of negative side effects. Metals are associated with dementia, Alzheimer's, high blood pressure, Parkinson's, and they show up in our life and sometimes in our body. And I help people to identify those heavy metals and remove them because they are stress on the body. Nutrient deficiencies. Yeah, that's about most of us here. Even if you're eating 9 to 13 servings of plants a day, it is highly unlikely that you're getting enough nutrients, that you have optimal levels of nutrients. These are things that show up on the special labs that we order in functional medicine. So you can see that objective data for yourself. And hormonal imbalances. Yeah, a lot of people suffer with hormonal imbalances. I talked about estrogen dominance earlier in this talk. This is something that could even take place even after menopause when estrogen levels are low. Okay, stress can be mental, work-related stress, the never-ending to-do list, the daily life duties. Oh, I need to get this fixed. Oh, I need to call this person. I need to make that appointment. Life is just a never-ending to-do list. That is definitely mental stress. Emotional stress, relationship issues and stress with whether it's your spouse or your friends or your family, but also feeling lonely, feeling like a lack of community, a lack of belonging. Spiritual stress. This is something I love to chat about. This can maybe make us question, is there a higher power? What is my purpose? Why am I here? What do I believe? I don't think this is talked about enough, and it's something that all of us at some point face, and in my opinion is one of the most crucial elements of our health. And there are studies to back this up, and I'm all about being evidence-based. All stress, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, increases cortisol, which suppresses melatonin. So things might be awesome in your life. You might have very low stress with your spouse, with your friends, but maybe you have an undiagnosed gut imbalance. That can be stress on your body. That can increase your cortisol, suppress your melatonin, and prevent you from falling asleep. And it's something that we can address. We can do something about it. Okay, parasites. Ooh, weird. Parasites. Yes, parasites are incredibly common. Other cultures actually have regular parasite cleanses that they do in order just to support their body, because we do come into contact with parasites, especially through produce items that's not well cleaned. Even the best cleaned produce items can still contain parasites. Undercooked meats. Maybe you like your steak super rare. I'm not judging you, but that could definitely be a source. Our water. So especially tap water that is not well filtered could definitely be a source of parasites. Maybe you love your sushi. Maybe you go out for sushi and it's super fun and you do it, on a regular basis. Unfortunately, that could be a source of parasites. So what are the common symptoms? I've never heard of this before. Why did my provider not tell me about parasites? Our training is different. So I'm a PA. I went through the conventional medical model in order to be a physician assistant. And I'll tell you something, never once did we learn about parasites. But they are common and they cause serious symptoms. Some obscure symptoms that we might not even really associate with parasites. Itching, literally anywhere, any kind of itching. Bruxism, this is big. So the clenching and the grinding of our teeth, especially at night, is associated with parasites, as well as stress. And parasites can definitely cause stress on the body. Okay, what else? Mood imbalances, GI issues, all kinds. Nausea, indigestion, bloating, stomach pain, rashes. You ever get some weird rashes? Eczema. Eczema in particular is associated with parasites. Fatigue, just feeling super run down. Also, nutrient deficiencies. We often see certain nutrient deficiencies on labs to kind of give us an idea about whether or not this is present. We often see high eosinophils, low iron, and low B12. Parasites, they're active at night, and they can disrupt the sleep-wake cycle, which can lead to daytime sleepiness and insomnia at night. So, parasites, something to keep in mind. Around full moons, notice how you feel, notice how you sleep. Is your insomnia extra worse around full moons? Could be parasites, for sure. All right, methylation. This is kind of a term we might be hearing if we are reading up on different health articles and podcasts. What is it? It is a pretty complex process, but it basically involves the when a small molecule called a methyl group gets added to DNA, proteins, or other molecules. It's really important for detoxification. Impaired methylation, here's the connection between sleep, results in decreased production of dopamine, another one of those happy hormones that is involved in the sleep-wake cycle. And it's also important for like almost everything in your body. Gene expression, how your genes are expressed, fetal development, neurotransmitter production like dopamine and serotonin, which give us a happy mood, detoxification, producing glutathione, and a lot more. What do we need to methylate? B12, B9, which is folate, B6, we talked about that one, needed to make serotonin, which is used to make melatonin, and vitamin B2, as well as choline, zinc, magnesium, and other things. Now, there are many people who have methylation mutations, methylation genetic issues with methylation, such as the MTHFR gene mutation. Ooh, spooky. Anybody ever hear of that?
No.
It's not a death sentence, not at all. I believe over 40% of the population is walking around with an MTHFR gene mutation of sorts, and it oftentimes means that you just need more B12, B6, and B9 than other people. Okay, GABA glutamate. What is going on? GABA, we already talked about this. This is that feel-good inhibitory neurotransmitter. It blocks impulses between nerve cells, and that's that brake element to the brain that we chatted about earlier. It softens the background noise. It suppresses glutamate. And things that increase GABA are alcohol, which I'm not endorsing, progesterone, L-theanine, and benzodiazepines, such as Xanax. Now, what is glutamate? This is the opposite. It's an excitatory neurotransmitter in the brain and in the central nervous system, and it does suppress GABA. Things that increase glutamate are, there's that stress again, mental, emotional stress, physiological stress, stress on our body, intake of stimulatory foods, coffee, black tea, chocolate, sugar, everything that's amazing in life, right? Excess dietary glutamate, MSG. Now, if you enjoy some occasional takeout, some Chinese food, you bet your bottom dollar there's glutamate in there, MSG. So we want to make sure that we don't have too much glutamate in correlation to GABA. And so that glutamate heavy balance can cause trouble with sleep. What else? Melatonin, here we are again. Melatonin, what is it? A hormone naturally produced in the body and released from the pineal gland in the brain in response to darkness. This is why we need to dim the lights in the evening so we can let our body do its thing. So, it's made in the gut. this is what's really cool. I don't think we realize this. It's not only made in the brain, but it's made in the gut, into the enterochromaffin cells, EC cells. And so that means that having a gut imbalance, if you're not able to make melatonin in your gut, well, that can cause trouble sleeping. So gut imbalance can also be another root cause of trouble sleeping. Melatonin, as we know, is suppressed by cortisol, which is that short-term adrenal hormone released during stress, which is often high for us all throughout the day and even at night. Okay, sleep apnea. Sleep apnea. This is another root cause of poor sleep, and that occurs when breathing repeatedly stops and starts. And there's three types. There's obstructive, where the throat muscles relax and that impedes our airflow. Central, where the brain doesn't send the signal to the muscles that control the breathing. And then there's complex, which could be both obstructive and central. And breathing pauses prevent your body from supplying enough oxygen to the brain. So this can lead to actually brain damage, which is why it's so super important to get this assessed. Okay, and last but not least, poor sleep hygiene. Maybe that sounds like a really weird phrase, sleep hygiene. Zoe, what are you talking about? I'm talking about stress before bed. Physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual stress. This can definitely increase cortisol, which we don't want to happen. We want to decrease it. Full spectrum light exposure. We want to dim the lights so our body can make its own melatonin. Blue light exposure. This is a toughie. This one is tough because what are some of our favorite things to do before we go to bed? Click on the TV, right? Watch our favorite show, our favorite movie. We're all guilty of this, right? I'm sure we all have our favorite shows. But this blue light is a problem because it increases cortisol and it tells our body it's daytime and we're trying to go to sleep. So we don't want this miscommunication. Where do we get that blue light? TVs, laptops, iPads, smartphones. So what can we do to work around this? If you have to watch your shows at night, if it's super important to you, get a pair of blue light blocker glasses. Typically you can get them for pretty affordable prices, and I recommend wearing them, even earlier on in the evening, like around 5 p.m. until you go to bed. All right, loud environment, whether it's stressful or maybe there's some work going on wherever nearby where you live, construction, or someone's blaring music. That, I hope not, that would be terrible neighbors. But loud environments are gonna make us feel stressed and they're gonna increase cortisol, and we all know what happens when cortisol goes up, melatonin goes
down.
Come on guys, let's go. Melatonin goes down. Yeah, that's right. Okay, room. Oh, this one might cause some division in marriages, and I apologize for this. If the room is hotter than 67 degrees, it may not be the best sleeping environment, and that can cause you to wake up, and we'll dive a little bit deeper. Who here loves it super cold, super cold, super cold? Oh, who here loves it hot, hot, hot? Or not super cold?
Not hot.
You're moving out.
Higher than 67. not hot.
Okay, you heard it here. Okay.
Thank you.
Exposure to dust, mold, pollen, and other allergens. And going to bed on a full stomach, as well as uncomfortable sheets, or a comforter, or a bed. So this is your excuse to invest in those lovely sheets that you've been eyeing. Maybe they're linen, maybe they're really cool and breathable. Okay, so finally, we know why sleep is important. We know the root causes of sleep. There's 12 of them, by the way. That's a lot. But what are we gonna do about it? So let's dive in. Okay, good sleep hygiene. Regardless of your root causes, you can start tonight and you can have awesome, good sleep hygiene. You can get some gold stars at this, and you can see how it goes, right? If you try all of these things and you still don't sleep well, was it worth your time? Yeah, because you narrowed it down. You are narrowing down your root causes. Remember, no two people have the same root causes. So you might have two people, same age, similar demographics, and they could have two completely different root causes or more. So what are some good sleep hygiene tips? Now, this is where the handout comes in. This is your take home, so that way you can reference it even later tonight. All right, so what do we want to do? Choose more calming, quieter evening activities that resonate with you and help you to relax, both mentally and physically. Who loves to take a bath, like an Epsom salt bath? Anybody do that? That's one of my favorites. Love it. Oh, I like it. Okay, what else? Reading a book. This is a great activity to do before bed, but preferably not on your Kindle. Okay, going for a light stroll outdoors. This is a good one because if we're watching the sunset, our body is getting that input that it's getting darker, which means what goes up? Thank you guys. Yes, rocket it. Okay, cuddling with a pet. This actually is proven to lower cortisol, which is why therapeutic animals sometimes go into hospitals, which is awesome. Or folding laundry. Maybe that's not your favorite activity. Fine either, but I guess it can be calming, right? Okay, what else can we do? Turn off full spectrum lights 1 to 2 hours before bedtime. So that means these overhead lights would ideally be shut down. Maybe you could have some soft lights, some soft lamp lighting, ambient lighting, so that way you can see, but nothing too glaring. Why? This is going to increase cortisol. What else can we do? Avoid TVs, screens of all kinds, laptops, iPads, smartphones. And you know what? I challenge you to do this and see what you end up doing with your time. See what you get into. Maybe you grab that book that you've been intending to read for like what, past 2 years? I think we all have a book like that. I know I do.
Elaborate on the other enjoyable activities.
Oh, what? Other enjoyable activities? You have some others in mind?
I want to know what you had to say.
Okay. I'm a fan of reading before bed, and I also am a big fan, Drew, if you want to go back, of some gratitude journaling. A really good time for reflection. Now, not everybody loves to journal, and that's fine, and you don't need to journal in order to be a healthy person. I think sometimes we have this idea that we need to do all of these things in order to be the picture of health. You need to drink your green juice, and you need to meditate, and you need to write down everything you're grateful for. I think these are all great things, but what's important is that they help you and they serve you. So maybe you do try writing down a couple things that you're grateful for. I recommend 3. Just 3, keep it simple, keep a notebook by your bed, and watch how your attitude changes. When we are in a state of gratitude, we cannot be anxious. And I think this is really such an easy tool. There's always something to complain about. There's always something that's going wrong. There's always someone that's making us mad. There's always something wrong with the world, wrong with our neighbors. But there is so much that's going well, right? There's so much that's going well, and when we are able to focus on that, our body can start to heal. We'll shift into that parasympathetic state. We'll be in that state of gratitude, and amazing things can happen. Our thoughts and our health are intricately related. And again, there are studies on this. Okay, what else? Want to wake up feeling like this? Say no to screens 1 to 2 hours before bedtime. Try it. Just try it one night. Okay, what else? Avoid amping up your brain. Avoid activities such as budgeting, next day planning, or stressful conversations in the full hour prior to bedtime. So, if your family member calls who irks you at 9 o'clock and you go to bed at 10, you have my permission to not answer, sorry. Zoe says, I cannot do anything stressful. Budgeting, next day planning, right, save it for later, maybe save it for the morning, but basically you want to wind down, give your body opportunity to relax, give your mind the opportunity to relax, and avoid caffeinated food or drink after 2 p.m., even green tea, which has a lot of helpful, beneficial properties. It has L-theanine in it, which we're going to talk about, and what else? Coffee, soda, chocolate. Yeah, chocolate has caffeine in it. You probably already know that, but if you're sensitive to caffeine, if you metabolize it a little bit slower than other people, then that could impact your ability to fall asleep. And many of us might have a routine of eating a little piece of chocolate after dinner. So perhaps that could be causing you trouble sleeping. Depending upon your unique ability to metabolize caffeine, it could still impact you hours after you eat it. Make it quiet, but not too quiet. Okay, so if noise is an issue, try some foam or silicone earplugs or maybe the white noise of a fan. But basically, we want it to not be so loud that it's waking us up, but sometimes it can be too quiet. It can be eerily quiet. And then we hear every little thing, like the dripping faucet, oh, that needs fixed. And that can start that rumination process, right? So we just want the right amount of noise. Mind the temperature. Okay, rooms that are too hot or too cold, they can wake us up. Temperature extremes increase our stress hormones, and that promotes wakefulness. So most people do sleep best in 62 to 67 degree Fahrenheit temperature. So this is your excuse to turn that thermostat down, even if your spouse says no. Maybe try it, see how they sleep, and then you have some grounds for what you did. Okay, optimize your ability to breathe through your nose. We do not talk about this enough. Of course, we want to avoid allergens that can affect our breathing, and that might mean our family pet, our little sweet cat that always makes us kind of sneeze every once in a while, or a dog, or some other animal. An air purifier could be helpful. I love Air Doctor, that's my favorite one. And that can help with dust, mold, pollen, and allergens. But here are some easy hacks. You could consider some simple tools like nasal strips or mouth taping. Now, has anyone ever seen someone with mouth tape on, or have you heard of mouth tape?
Never.
Nope.
Another thing that we have to do, right? Maybe we have our mouth guard in to prevent us from grinding, and maybe we've got certain things that we put on our face to prevent wrinkling while we sleep. Maybe we wear a bonnet that helps to prevent our hair. Okay, yes, it is another thing you can add to your to-do list, but it can really make a big difference because it can help you to breathe through your nose instead of through your mouth. And it is not the best thing to breathe through our mouth at night. Not only can it impact the way that we look, so it can cause jaw protrusion instead of retraction, it can also contribute to high blood pressure. Why? Because when we breathe through our nose, it increases nitric oxide. That's how we produce nitric oxide, and that helps with bringing more oxygen into the blood, and that can help with preventing high blood pressure. What else can we do? Quiet digestion. Who is guilty of going to bed on a full stomach? Maybe you have a late night dinner and it was so good, and then, you know, maybe your spouse made steak and it just put you to sleep. Okay, this happens from time to time. We're not gonna be perfect, it's gonna happen, but it's not optimal. It's not optimal. Why? Because your body has to spend energy digesting. And we don't want your body to do that. We want your body to take care of whatever it needs to take care of at night, to repair and restore. That's what we want our body focused on, not digesting. What else? Have a relaxing ritual at night. Herbal tea like Tulsi, chamomile, valerian, passion flower. I always recommend organic teas. You would be surprised. Heavy metals can be found in teas, so we want to aim for organic. A hot bath with Epsom salt, or maybe 10 minutes of that gratitude journaling or inspirational reading, such as the Bible. What else can we do? Be comfortable. Okay, here is your sign. You've been looking at a mattress. You've been eyeing those fancy sheets. You want those really comfortable silk pajamas. Go for it. Why? You spend a third of your life in bed. Come on, it's worth it. You want to feel comfortable. I recommend breathable sheets like cotton or linen. Those typically help our body not to overheat. All right, so what's an example wind down routine? So maybe you don't go to bed at 10:30, that's okay, but you can still apply this to your typical sleep time. So let's say 9 o'clock, let's say you do go to bed at 10:30. 9 o'clock, what do? Dim the lights. Time to dim the lights and turn off screens, say goodbye to blue light so melatonin won't be suppressed. Then maybe you take a nighttime shower. Maybe you're a morning person, fine, but one at night can really help. Why? Because that hot water could also cause vasodilation of our blood vessels, and that can lower our blood pressure, and that can make us feel really calm and ready for sleep. Brush your teeth, put on your awesome PJs, your new PJs that I gave you permission to purchase. And then at night, 9:30, time to take that thermostat down between 62 and 67. And it would be a good time to take some nighttime supplements. Magnesium, melatonin, L-theanine. We're going to talk about this in a second. And of course, making sure it's nice and cool before we go to bed. Then it would be maybe a good time to get that tea that you like, valerian, passion, flower, etc. And read your book. Read the book that you've been putting on the, your side table, your bookcase for the past 2 years. Bring it out, screens are away, and start to read. And hopefully that will get you nice and ready to fall asleep. All right, what about supplements? Everybody loves supplements. What can I do? What can I take? Now I want to preface this with a couple of things. Supplements are not always the solution. We love supplements because typically we're used to the conventional model, which says you have a symptom, here is a drug for you to take that can get rid of your symptoms. We're used to that, right? That's the conventional way. Functional medicine is completely different. Our goal is to figure out why you have the symptoms, give your body what it needs so that you don't need any drugs to, for example, fall asleep or fill in the blank with whatever symptom that you have. Completely different philosophy. So I want to make you aware that these supplements aren't always the solution, but there are 3 I'm going to talk about tonight that can be helpful because I believe in rapid relief. So what I help my patients with at that first visit is rapid relief of their symptoms. I believe this is possible. You can feel better quickly. You can feel better without having to think about and deal with dangerous side effects from medications while we work on the root cause, because it might take time to find your root causes. We might need to do some lab work that takes 2.5 weeks to come in to find out where some certain nutrient deficiencies are before we can start making recommendations. So I want to support you immediately and from the get-go. And these are some supplements that could be helpful, but I cannot promise that they're going to help you because you're special, you're unique, and you might not have a magnesium deficiency. You may not struggle with melatonin production, and you might not have too high of cortisol. So this is not ubiquitous. There is nothing in functional medicine that is cookie cutter or ubiquitous. Everything is for the individual, and that's what I love to do is work with people as individuals and find out what their root causes are. But I also want to make you aware of some common root cause, some common supplements that you may see as you're out and about, or maybe you've read about it, and maybe you want to give it a shot. So I just want to make you informed about these supplements. Another disclaimer, I know, another one. Supplements aren't regulated by the FDA. Now, this is both a good thing and a bad thing. The unfortunate thing is that anybody can put anything that they want in supplements. And that means fillers and binders and even heavy metals. And we just talked about heavy metals. They can cause high blood pressure, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. No thanks, we want to avoid them. Quality does matter. Quality absolutely matters. So I will provide you at the end of this presentation with an opportunity to obtain high quality supplements that are third-party tested, that you know do not have these extra crap in your supplements that could contribute to potentially worse symptoms that you're experiencing. I don't recommend getting supplements from the grocery store, from Walmart, Walgreens, whatever. Oftentimes these are poor quality supplements. So just wanted to give that disclaimer. But what about these 3 supplements? Magnesium, melatonin, and L-theanine. Magnesium. Magnesium is a natural calcium channel blocker and a vasodilator, meaning it makes blood vessels larger. And that helps to lower blood pressure, and it can help us to feel calm and relaxed. It can also help with GABA production. We love GABA, right? That softens that background noise. Most Americans are truly deficient in magnesium. I will talk more about this here in a second. Melatonin. Melatonin is that hormone that's naturally produced in the body and released from the pineal gland in the brain in response to darkness. It's suppressed by cortisol, the short-term adrenal hormone released in times of stress. At this point, I hope you guys have a pretty solid understanding of melatonin and cortisol. Now, if you're not making enough of your own, supplementation can supplement what your body's not making on its own. So this can be a great short-term solution. Studies show it is safe to take long-term, and it does not suppress your body's ability to make it on your own, but your body can do it I believe in your body, it can make its own melatonin. Okay, and then what about L-theanine? L-theanine is derived from the green tea plant. It's an amino acid. It's one of 20 amino acids, and it promotes alpha waves in the brain. Okay, you remember the alpha waves. We have the beta waves when we're awake, and then when we close our eyes, we transition to those alpha waves. This can promote those alpha waves in the brain and increase GABA and lower cortisol. It's kind of like a triple threat. I really love it, and I call this a healthy Xanax. This is literally a healthy Xanax. What does Xanax do? It increases GABA. So this can work really well, and it has virtually no side effects. And this is the beauty of functional medicine. I love what I do because I love providing people with solutions in a way that supports our health instead of detracts from it. Okay, so a little bit about magnesium. This is a fantastic brand I love called Designs for Health. This is a magnesium I take. It's magnesium glycinate. Now, there are a million types of magnesium. Citrate, malate, oxide, you name it. And they all serve different purposes. It can all help in different ways. So citrate can be really helpful if you have constipation. L-threonate can be helpful if you have headaches. But glycinate is just a great all-purpose magnesium, and we can dose this by listening to your body. Now, not all supplements are like this. We don't want to play around with a lot of different types of supplements, but this one is actually okay to play around with, and I encourage it. We want to start with 1 or 2 caps at bedtime and slowly increase the capsules until you notice loose stool. Because when we take too much magnesium, it will cause loose stool. So when that happens, we back down 1 capsule, and that's your magic number. And you let your body tell you what you need. Now, this can be a true root cause because, again, nutrient deficiencies are real. So max dosage is 10 caps, no more than 10 capsules. Contraindications, kidney disease, neuromuscular diseases, and pregnancy in certain amounts. What's next? Melatonin. Melatonin. I love this one by Pure Encapsulations, another third-party tested supplement brand. And this is a sustained release. So it slowly releases throughout the night, which I love, and I think it works better than other melatonin. Now, how do we dose this? Well, your body will tell you how much you need. We can take 1 to 4 caps about an hour before bedtime. It's best taken in combination with L-theanine if you struggle with high cortisol. Why? Because when cortisol goes up, melatonin goes down. So if we take L-theanine, it can help us to quickly lower cortisol, and then melatonin, giving us this extra, could be the perfect concoction to help us fall asleep. So we don't want more than 12 milligrams in 24 hours. Contraindications would be kidney disease, liver disease, pregnancy or breastfeeding, or post-organ transplant. Other than that, it's very well tolerated and very safe. All right, and last but not least is L-theanine. I just love L-theanine. I think it is such a fantastic alternative to many things such as benzos. One dosing is 1 to 6 caps 1 hour before bed, ideally taken with melatonin, and maximum dose is 6 caps a day. Contraindications would be pregnancy or breastfeeding because there's insufficient data, likely safe, but there's not enough data to support it. And then if your blood pressure is really low, this can lower cortisol. And remember, cortisol is a vasoconstrictor. It makes your blood vessels diameter smaller. So this could make your blood pressure a little bit too low, and that can make you feel lightheaded. Now, most people are taking this before bed, but that would be a contraindication to L-theanine. Again, an amino acid that you would find in a chicken breast, 1 of 20, right? Okay, so after listening to this talk tonight, are you ready to get to the root? If you are interested, you can schedule tonight a free 20-minute phone consultation with me. It's free, there's no obligations. We would chat, we would get to know your symptoms, your health goals, and I can share with you the functional approach, which is gonna look different than what you're typically doing with your conventional provider. So if that interests you, come up to me tonight and I will help you set that up. You can also do it on the my website, www.upcurrentfm.com, and you can do it yourself. I'd love to work with you. It would be an honor. Okay, time for question and answer. Oh yeah. So, fantastic. Anybody have any questions? We covered so much ground tonight. Sleep, why is it important? What are the root causes of poor sleep? The things that we can tangibly do to start sleeping better? What questions do you have? Now, keep in mind, we can cover topics that aren't sleep related. I'm ready for your questions. What do we have? Yes.
Let's just stick with sleep problems.
I like
right
it.
now. What kind of lab work do you do to assess what the patient's needs are?
Good question. So I can order labs, typically Lab4 Request, or whatever lab company your insurance covers, and assess all different types of lab markers. Now in functional medicine, we do tend to check some different markers, but we also check some of the similar lab markers as well. So what I recommend for my new patients is at that first visit, at the end of it, we can order a set of comprehensive labs that will cover a lot of different areas, because we want all the information so we can start plugging pieces together. There are so many root causes for any one symptom, so it's beneficial to have more data so that way we can put those pieces together. Here's an example. Hypothyroidism. Let's say you think that you have a thyroid problem, right? And you know your body best, and you say, I think I have a thyroid problem. I'm struggling to lose weight, I have constipation, I am just tired all the time, my hair's falling out, it's dry, I have brittle hair and nails. Doctor, I think I need my thyroid checked. Well, your provider is probably, if you're lucky, gonna check a TSH and maybe a total T4. In functional medicine, I am checking a TSH, a free T4, the inactive thyroid hormone, a free T3, again free, what is available in the body for your body to use, a reverse T3, which can block access of the cells to T3, and both thyroid antibodies. All of these markers are important to assess a thyroid, and that is, again, a different approach. But in addition to that, we want to know why. Let's say you have a low free T3. Why, right? Zinc and selenium are needed to convert T4 to T3. So what are we gonna check? A zinc and a selenium, red blood cell, of course. So that's just one example of how the labs that I check are different, but it can still be helpful to have some of the same labs from your primary care provider, such as CBC, CMP. There's so much we can learn just by looking at the annual labs that you have maybe from your primary care. Does that help to answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Anybody else? Anything sleep related? We talked about a lot. Yeah.
So some of these things will help continued sleep.
Yeah.
So what about falling asleep?
Yeah.
And you wake up at 1 o'clock.
Yep.
And you're up that.
Yep.
You know, till 2:30.
Yep.
And then you're up again at 3:30 till
Yeah.
5:30 and or something similar.
So if you're waking up frequently, that's a great question. If you're waking up frequently at night, typically it could be due to all of these root causes could technically be true for trouble falling asleep or trouble staying asleep. What I've seen clinically is that blood glucose tends to be an issue with the staying asleep part. Progesterone, low progesterone tends to cause trouble staying asleep. And stress, trouble falling and staying asleep as well. So typically when we're in that REM cycle, cortisol can have a potential to peak, and so that can be when you're waking up. So if it's multiple times, it tends to be right at the end of that rapid eye movement cycle when there is more brain activity, but the body is immobilized. So I would say clinically what I've noticed is low progesterone, low blood glucose, trouble regulating your blood glucose, and stress, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Good question. That was great. Anybody else? Yeah.
In any of the root causes, you never mentioned bladder issues.
Bladder issues.
Someone who
Like having a cup
is
of tea right
every
before bed. That's
Yeah.
why I'm up
hour
at
all
3 in the
night
morning.
long,
Yeah.
but has no problem during the day. Can go 5 hours during the day,
Oh, I love this question.
but it's nighttime.
Yeah.
And and that bladder's not full. It only has a little bit in it, but it'll wake me up.
Yep. Okay, so a couple things could be going on when I think about waking up at night due to urination. So nocturia is the fancy word for that. I think about a couple different things. One thing is the position of the bladder could be twisted. I learned about this recently, and there is a fantastic myofascial release therapist who is right here nearby, literally right in this area, Karen Trama, who helps with the positioning of the pelvic floor to release the bladder, which could be twisted. That means there could be a little bit of urine in the bladder, which can still send a signal to the body that the bladder is full. Something else, this is probably more common, mold. Yep, mold. So mold can increase ADH, antidiuretic hormone, and that can cause trouble, that can cause you to have to wake up at night. So I would say those would be the two things I would think about. In addition to that, yes, those would be the two things. Mold and also the position of the bladder. Two root causes for that. There could be more. Those are the things that first came to my mind.
The woman who I was talking to when I first came in, what if this has been going on for over 30 years? Any of these root causes that you're talking about all seem like it would be something that we may have come into now. This is over 30 years for me.
Yeah.
That I'm up every single night.
Yeah.
And I'm really tired of it. I took a nap before I came over here.
I don't blame you.
I said to my husband, I hope I stay awake for this
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah. So the truth is, a lot of these root causes can be root causes from 30 years ago, right? So let's think about it. If you're postmenopausal, progesterone has probably been low for quite some time, depending upon how old you are. Low progesterone can definitely be an ongoing root cause that would cause you trouble sleeping for a long time. Stress, unidentified and processed stress. So this is something I didn't talk about tonight, and I'm so glad you brought this up. Previous traumas. We don't like to talk about that, right? Childhood traumas in our adulthood, with relationships. These, unfortunately, in my experience, most people have some sort of trauma that they've gone through in their life that they haven't processed, that they haven't resolved. And there is different techniques that can be used to help resolve previous traumas, such as EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Now what's cool is that during that technique, while the different memories are being brought up, the person who's speaking tracks a ball on a screen that moves their eye. Now remember what we learned about tonight. REM sleep helps with converting short-term memories to long-term memories. So it can help, that specific type of therapy can help with more effective resolution of previous traumas. Why do I bring up previous traumas? Because that is something that oftentimes can be a major barrier to healing. I have patients who do all the right things. They eat all the good food, they eat organic, they move their body, they have a community, they take their supplements, their nutrients are optimized, they keep their stress low. But without addressing their trauma, these patients can be stuck from finally making that final leap into healing. And we do know that previous trauma can prime the amygdala in our brain to be in that state of hypervigilance, that sympathetic state of fight or flight. And that could be something that, unless it's addressed, will still create a problem. Maybe you have a gut issue that you've been struggling with for years and years and years that has not been addressed. I mean, all of these things could be long-term root causes. And what I do is I help figure out what is true for you, what is true for your life experiences. And we can do that by looking at your lifestyle factors. I learn about my patients. I ask them how they were born. Vaginal or C-section? Were you breastfed or bottle fed? What was your childhood like? What are the dynamics like growing up? It matters. It truly, truly matters. And I do ask about traumas. If they feel comfortable enough to share, then I encourage it so that way we can understand, how did you get to this point? because something caused you to have these symptoms. And you're worthy of the exploration. And you deserve answers for the way that you feel instead of a drug to get you out of the door. I don't agree with that. I don't like that. I believe you deserve answers for the way that you feel, and it is so awesome to take the time and get to know you as an individual, all your lifestyle factors, how you eat, breathe, think, move, sleep, stress, energy, previous traumas, environmental exposures, and we can get nerdy, and we can look at labs, objective data, the black and the white, and we can do cool tests like specialty tests that will look at your gut microbiome, or heavy metals, or Lyme and co-infections, or mycotoxins, or hormones, and we can do that to figure out what is true for you. So that's a great question, and I do believe that the majority of these root causes here could be ongoing, could be definitely ongoing. Does that help?
Hey, she knows more about my wife than I do in 47 years.
You're lucky.
But I have one question I want to ask.
Sure.
If Dr. Andrew had a better sleep routine, would that improve his pickleball play?
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. I do my best. Sometimes I do encourage him to stay up a little bit later and hang out with me if we have long nights, long work days, but you're right. So, Drew, you can remind me, your sleep matters.
So just one thing, so traditional medicine, a lot of people go for sleep studies.
Yes.
Like overnight sleep studies.
Yeah, to look for things like sleep
And is that only
apnea.
for apnea, pretty
Yep.
much?
Basically. And that is one of 12, and there are more root causes, but I simplified, I condensed. There's so much more, there's always an answer. There's always an answer, because your body was designed beautifully and with intention and with purpose. So it would be a pleasure to work with you. I just want, even if we never work together, I just want you to know that this exists, that there are explanations for the way that you feel, there's solutions for the way that you feel, and oftentimes it's simple. Oftentimes it's nothing dangerous or complicated or scary. Majority of the things that I recommend are lifestyle changes and nutrients, vitamins and minerals, which I did not learn how to prescribe in PA school. I learned how to write prescriptions. And I probably write prescriptions very rarely. Maybe some thyroid medication, antibiotic if we have some Lyme disease that we're working with, bioidentical hormones. I do prescribe those for the right person, for the right people with, gotta look through certain risk factors. There's a time and place for medications, but majority of the time, your body just wants simple things like nutrients. So, thank you guys for listening. Thank you all for being here. If you have more questions, thank you. If you have more questions for me, talk to me. If you want to purchase any of these supplements for yourself, talk to me. And if you're interested in signing up for a 20-minute consult, come talk to me. It'd be great. Thank you guys.
Thank you.